all of the spices, the gingerbread, the spices, this incredible level of concentration, everything is so packed into this wine. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Hello, bonjour, and welcome to your new Alti Wine Exchange video, this wine channel where we learn about and sometimes we taste together the wonderful world of wine. And today is one of these days where we do get to taste some wonderful, extremely rare wine that our wine investment platform can allow you to get access to. I don't even have a bottle of it, it's so rare, just a small sample. It's one of these days also when you can get a chance to invest on an incredibly rare bottle through the Alti Wine Exchange website. This is linked in the video description. Today we're tasting together and I'm going to tell you the story of an exclusive 1919 fortified wine from Portugal. You've heard this right, released after spending 100 years in wine barrels at the winery in a special bottling to commemorate the Kingsman movie release. Let's go. José Maria da Fonseca is one of the most famous and respected wine brands in Portugal, full stop. I might actually tell you a little bit more about it. The winery is located in a charming little village on the Setubal peninsula just south of Lisboa. One of the reasons for Fonseca's fame as a winery is its very long tradition of winemaking. The company was founded by José Maria da Fonseca. He named the winery after himself back in 1834. It's been now run by the same family for 7 generations. Now, despite this rather long tradition though, Fonseca has always had the tradition of constantly innovating. That's because José Maria, the founder, was a mathematician by training, so he liked to innovate and push the boundaries. There's a few things that the Fonseca family pioneered. Famously, in 1850, they launched a new brand of wine called Perrequita, which is now one of the most recognized wine brands in Portugal. Fonseca also pioneered the making and marketing of a traditional style of pungent and sweet fortified wine made from muscat grapes that is called Moscatel de Setubal, this very wine that we're going to be tasting here. This style was so delicious and appreciated early on that Fonseca's Moscatel de Setubal won a gold medal at the Exposition Universelle, the Universal Exposition of 1855 in Paris. And if that rings the bell, there's a reason for this. Yes, that's the same exposition where Napoleon III ordered the famous 1855 classification of the wines from Bordeaux. Since Moscatel de Setubal has been one of the very classic wine styles that are appreciated by wine connoisseurs everywhere around the globe. Yet this very bottle here is not any Moscatel de Setubal, and let's have a look into its story. I can't wait to actually get into this, but bear with me a second. You may know the Kingsman spy action franchise that started in 2014 with the Secret Service, then went on in 2017 with the second iteration with the Golden Circle. The latest 2020 Kingsman movie was directed by Matthew Vaughan and stars Ralph Fiennes, Gemma Arterton, Rhys Ifans, to name a few. But it also features, guess what? This very 1919 Moscatel by J.M. Fonseca that carries the name of the franchise. The movie is set in a World War I context, intertwining an intriguing plot with major historical figures from Rasputin to the 3 royal cousins. Back then, the wines from Portugal already carried a well-known share of history and reputation, especially in the UK, because they exported naturally a lot from Portugal to the UK even way before that. Moscatel de Setubal, the best of all Portuguese muscats, was already loved by different kings of France and Great Britain even long before the modern era and the 20th century. Moscatel de Setubal is this very special wine in the world because it is made from very ripe and very fragrant muscat grapes that are grown in a very sunny area of Portugal to the south, concentrating deep and rich flavors of honey, apricots, figs and raisins. Then, because this is a sweet wine at around 17-18% alcohol, the wine ages but very very slowly because the alcohol preserves the aromas and flavors of the original grapes for many decades, if not centuries. Now, because Fonseca pioneered this style, they've also stored many old vintages of it, keeping them refining in oak barrels generation after generation. Sometimes, very occasionally, the winery bottles some of these old well-kept treasures and sells them to selected customers, so some people can appreciate them as well. That's exactly what happened with this 1919 wine, bottled after 100 years in barrel in honor of the Kingsman franchise. The early 20th century was a time of fast, intriguing changes, moving from decadent monarchies to new republics, revolutions and wars. Habits changed as the world was changing, but J.M. Fonseca Winery kept this treasure of a wine all the way through these 101 years for you. This is a rare opportunity to get your hands on such an old gem and to taste it. This outstanding wine has outlived its time and will outlive us as history keeps running for sure. But let's dig into what it actually tastes like. It's such a rare opportunity to be able to taste a 100-plus-year-old wine when you think men, and most likely many women as well at the time, worked so hard to give birth to this wine just after World War I. I think of the atmosphere of those days that would have been around back then, sadness for sure from the years prior, but most likely also a lot of hope as well. And this is what I see in this wine. This would have been the first grape harvest after World War I, filled with really a lot of hope. The 1919 Spanish flu that we talked about, sadly, unfortunately, a lot, so much these days, probably was behind. I'm imagining the weight of the times seeing this wine, but also the hope that they must have felt for this new era that was just starting. Anyhow, I do love to think about the people around the wine when I taste it, think about them getting to the move and the period, the era. But let's get tasting. I obviously only have this small sample for this review video because this wine is so rare, but this is the same real wine that the Fonseca winery sent me in that little flask. Now, the color is obviously very, very intense and very brown. It essentially looks like a raisin juice because it was made pretty much from raisin grapes. And it's been aged for, imagine, 100 years since. But it does look shiny and very clear, no haziness whatsoever. I was also very impressed with how syrupy, when I poured it, if you paid attention how syrupy it is, because at the end of the day this is a very sweet and concentrated wine. The smell also, and I can smell it, I could smell it straight away after pouring it. The smell exudes with dried fruit, really rich dried fruits, the apricot, the fig, the raisin as well, but not only. There's a heap of spices and ginger and cinnamon, clove and nutmeg, somewhat like a very, very spicy gingerbread would be. It's surprisingly fresh as well and fruity to smell. I can really get a lot of almost floral characters that are actually really surprising to me, like essential oils of flowers, jasmine and elderflower, and I love the feel from these very delicate notes of orange blossoms that it's got. You would think that such a wine would have more like orange liqueur aromas perhaps, but no, it's got some citrus notes, yes, but floral citrus notes like orange blossoms and a lot of it. It's absolutely remarkably floral, remarkably light, remarkably fresh. Just stunning to smell at. But let's dig into what it actually tastes like. Ooh, I'm salivating already just from the smell of it. It's incredible. Wow. Wow, this is such an outstanding wine to taste. My mind is actually blown away right now. This is such a totally different tasting experience. First, I must say that what strikes first and most is the flavor of coffee that it delivers. You get a massive explosion of coffee-like flavors, slightly smoky with smooth and caramelly taste and flavors and aftertaste. It tastes like coffee and explodes with those coffee flavors somewhat, even more than a good espresso would, even more than a ristretto coffee, I'm tempted to say, or maybe just like a ristretto that is made with extremely fine and smooth coffee. It's such a fantastic tasting experience. It is a little bit sweet at the beginning, and that helps with the smoothness as well. But more than anything, it tastes quite savory overall and surprisingly dry, even though it contains quite a lot of residual sugars from the grapes. Of course, the finish has also this silky granulosity with extremely fine and concentrated tannins. You taste the fig and the raisins, but more importantly, all of the spices, the gingerbread, the spices, this incredible level of concentration, everything is so packed into this wine. It's absolutely mind blowing. And the finish is also incredibly dry. I mean, it's sweet, but it's also quite dry and delightfully drying somewhat. Again, somewhat like coffee, but such an incredible coffee. It's almost a little ashy as well from spending so long in oak barrels as well, and I absolutely love this ashiness that it transpires, that gets out of the glass. Yes, this is certainly a fascinating, unbelievable tasting experience, a totally different tasting experience, really, honestly, like nothing I've ever experienced before. And I have tasted quite a lot of old wines, but this is really something else. It almost tastes like it's from another planet, something totally unthinkable. And it's not another planet, but I think it's just a totally different times. It's hard to conceive how old this wine is, and it's hard to describe how it tastes as well. The Kingsman movie brings you back to those times, I suppose, but this wine also certainly does. What an honor to be able to taste this. I hope I've been able, with my simple words, to convey a little of my feelings at tasting this wine. Such a piece of history, such a piece of concentrated goodness, history, I mean, hard to describe it all. I think this special bottling made for the release of the Kingsman movie is a great idea. It's a fantastic opportunity to think about what happened 100 years ago, and a chance to taste something that old as well. Something that actually tastes absolutely delicious and so transporting. Wow. Again, if you're interested in investing in this wine, check out the Alti Wine Exchange website through the link in the description and find out if you might be able to get your hands on one of those very rare bottles of this exclusive 1919 wine. And I must leave it here for today, but I will certainly see you soon in the wonderful world of fine and rare wine, with more outstanding wonders that we can find, that we will find for you with the Alti Wine Exchange platform. Wow, such an experience. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you soon in the wonderful world of fine and rare wine.